Okay, you guys, listen. We kept a couple of times, like Adeo's name was mentioned. Adeo, the guy who founded the Founder Institute. Okay, so Adeo and I knew each other from the games industry. He and I both had startups that we sold in 2005. If you, at some point, I'll tell you a funny story about that. But more importantly, so after we exited and he said, I'm going off to do this crazy thing, I want to level the playing field for founders. I wish I knew all this stuff after all these fundraisings and after all these companies, and I want to level the playing field, so I'm going to do this thing called The Funded, where I'm going to let people review VCs. Okay, that was the idea. And oh my God, that was such a shit show. I was one of the first people to write a public review of a venture capitalist on that website. It was really, really bad. But it was really interesting. And he said, you know what? I think we can teach this idea. We can help people become founders who want to become founders. We can help teach people how to be founders. And he was like, why don't you come to this session? We're going to launch it. Come to the one in New York. So there I am, first session of Founder Institute, here in New York City. Adeo's from New York, now lives in San Francisco. We're here in New York. He wants to do something in New York. We're sitting in the room. And literally, this is the first day, the first session. There's a room full of people. And he goes, he calls on one guy. He had done office hours with Aaron Price, as it turns out. He calls on one guy in the room, and he's like, so wait a minute, tell everybody what your idea is again. And gets up, talks about his company's idea, and he's like, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. And so I'm sitting there with Chris Early, one of the founding Xbox team members, okay? And we look at each other like, what the hell did he just do? What is that? What? First of all, you don't talk to people like that, number one. Number two, these are people earnestly coming to do their startup in a class. Why are you insulting this guy, right? That is absolutely counterintuitive, what is going on. And as the kind of session progressed and then ended, and I was like, what is going on? What's going on with this? And he said something very, very clear to me, which I think about all the time. He's like, you know what? If you're out starting a company, you want to start a company, you don't need more people saying, great, that's a great idea, good for you. Because that's what your mom does, that's what your partner does, that's what when you're out drunk and you're telling your friends about your idea and they're like, yeah, great, that's awesome. You're getting all the positive reinforcement you want. And you know what else? I'll tell you something else. If you've ever raised venture capital money, Charlie will back me up. If you ever raise venture capital money, no venture capitalist will ever look you in the eye and say, that is a dumb idea. They will never say that to you, honestly. Because they're afraid you're the next Mark Zuckerberg. And they don't want to be the guy who crosses you. So they will not give you honest feedback. Your mom is not giving you honest feedback. Your partner and your friends are not capable of giving you honest feedback in general. So as a startup founder, this is the worst thing. You're in an echo chamber where all you hear all the time is, good job, buddy. And that is really dangerous. That's a really dangerous place to be. Because inside that echo chamber, there's no sunshine. There's no one casting light on the crazy things that you dreamt up half out of your mind at 3 o'clock in the morning one day, that you now take as gospel. Things that you've convinced yourself are true and real, and absolutely true and real, and if only the world would see the things your way, then everything would be great, right? There's no one shining that light. Now, you also think that the narrative of the startup founder, the narrative of the successful startup founder is generally, this person, against all odds, against a world filled with negative reinforcement, stuck to her guns and ignored everyone's bad advice to not do it, right? And did it anyway, and that's how they built a billion-dollar business. That narrative is also false. That narrative is false. It immediately falls apart as soon as you start looking at the actual facts of people's successful businesses. Because in order to be able to have a successful business, you've got to convince all kinds of people that you are right. You have to convince all kinds of people. And unless you are truly a Charles Manson quality megalomaniac, I assure you that some of the people that you will need to convince, from co-founders to investors to employees to people who give you space in their garage, whatever the case may be, will not fall for you purely on charm. And they will want to see a good idea thoughtfully executed with that's solid and thoughtful and iterated upon and figured out and subject to sunlight and scrutiny. And so our mission is to help you accelerate the process by which you do that. Because you can find out the same stuff that we will tell you in the brutally honest, incredibly painful, and difficult sessions that you will have, assuming that you get in the program and you decide you want to do it and you stick with it, okay? You can get all that feedback from the market as well. It's just going to take you a lot longer because you're not going to hear honest answers. It's super liberating in the end. It's a really, really liberating thing. Once you accept that the folks who are the mentors and supporting you have your best interest at heart. And that's key, because that's the difference between all the negative energy that you've probably picked up about your idea already. Because you've certainly gotten some negative feedback, but that negative feedback comes with qualifiers, where you can talk yourself out of that negative feedback, right? Oh yeah, you know what, my husband, he's actually pretty conservative, he doesn't want us to lose our income, that's why he's not really into my idea, right? This person tried that 10 years ago, they failed at it, they don't want anyone else to win, that's why they're not into my idea, okay? Any number of reasons. So what you need trusted, honest people who have your back, but who also have the experience with doing companies to give you honest feedback in early days so that you can go the distance, so that you can do the best job that you possibly can do. You don't need someone else to give you pablum. You can get all the baby food you want from mom. This isn't that place. And so this brutal honesty is a unique idea because it's a 360 thing. It's not just from you to the mentors, it's also from you to your peers who end up becoming this big part of your support network, right? Everybody in this culture of honesty attempts to give you good, solid feedback. Now, the tough part, and the part that not all of you will be able to do, but hopefully you'll be able to cultivate in yourself, is to be able to figure out which advice to take and which advice not to take. Because that's real tough. You're going to be sitting across from somebody who you really respect and admire, potentially a top angel investor in New York at one of the sessions that we have with mentors. And you'll be pitching this idea to him, and he's going to be like, oh, that is terrible, right? Or, I like the fundamental idea, but you're all wrong about your market approach, and you haven't thought this through, and this is ridiculous, and get out of my face, okay? And you're going to be devastated. You're going to be devastated. You're going to be like, okay, my idea is terrible. I don't get it. And then you're going to go do another piece of feedback with another mentor who you respect and admire, who built and launched a $300 million company. And he's going to be like, that is amazing. I can't wait until you have your prototype. I'm totally going to use your product. And you're going to say, how can this be, Gabe? How is it possible that these two people will both have these different opinions? And ultimately, the decision on what to do and how to run your company and who you're going to be and how this is all going to work out ultimately rests in your hands. But in order for you to get there, for you to even start to kind of take that journey to get anywhere, you've got to be able to express yourself in a way that other people will find compelling, in a way that clarifies key things about your idea and yourself, that allows people to see through all the noise and babble and get to something that they're really into. Sometimes you want to convince people that you're right. But most of the time, what you want to do is you want to get feedback, right? We're used to a world where we're trying to convince all the time. But actually, you who want to have startups, you don't want to convince people. You want to get feedback. And you want to listen more than you talk, okay? However, all that having been said, I will, for today only, use a piece of advice from my mom. I don't do it all the time. Love my mom, though I do. I don't quote her in every speech, I promise. So when I was very young, my mom was my kind of original entrepreneurial role model. Okay, so this is my role models growing up, all right? So my parents are immigrants to Canada from Hungary and Romania. Both really smart people, university-educated people who, in the move, when they defected in the 1960s and 1970s to Canada, had to give up their kind of white-collar aspirations and sort of become blue-collar people, because that was all they could do with their language skills and as immigrants, and they work super hard. This is a standard immigrant story. Many of you have lived this. Many of you have parents or grandparents who live this. But I had the most interesting work-related role models, okay? So my dad who speaks 7 languages and traveled all around the world and really loves literature and art and music, my dad took a job working for Air Canada, Canada's national airline. And man, oh man, you guys, did he love that job. He got up every single day, super early because he's kind of a night person. He got up every single day loving that job. Loving that job. Like, he loved his job. He did it for 35 or 36 years. Got up every day, loved that job, went to a job that he loved, came home, talked about his job, left his job. My mom was my prototype entrepreneur. From the very youngest of age, I remember her selling stuff. She used to have market stalls, and she had little shops, and she sold all kinds of things. And from the age of 10, I would periodically accompany my mother to the market stalls where she would sell. This, it's not a flea market, but it's more like a farmer's market kind of thing. And she would sell at the farmer's market. And I, as a precocious 10-year-old, would, of course, jump in and try to sell shit to people. That's what I would be doing. And I remember my mom gave me one really super important piece of advice. Actually, 2 pieces of advice. The first one was, remember that it's your store. You don't have to sell to anybody you don't want to sell to, which I think is good advice. And the second thing, which is probably the best advice anyone's ever given me on this question, she said, you don't sell the product or service that you notionally are trying to sell. She said, you only sell yourself. If people buy you, they will buy the product or service that you're holding, but they have to buy you first. So the Founder Institute's, one of its core modalities is that you pitch. You're pitching all the time. Sessions begin, almost every single session of the 16 sessions that we do has a pitching element where the mentors are going to listen to you give pitches that go from 1 minute to 5 minutes, or 7 minutes even, depending on where we are in the cycle. You're going to learn to do a 60-second, 3-minute, 5-minute, 7-minute pitch of your company that you're going to get beaten up over and over again. But by the end, you're going to be so good at it. You're going to be so clear about it. You're going to be so yourself in it that people who are interested in your idea won't be able to do anything but buy what it is that you have to sell. That's the idea. It's honest, it's real, it's intended to get feedback, but it's also you, and it's you at your best self by the time we're done. Pitch, 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 pitch. And anyone who's ever had a startup will tell you that as the founder of a startup, you pitch all the time. You're pitching every day, pitching multiple times a day to someone. Investor, prospective employee, possible partner, the media. Pitch, 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 pitch. And you got to get real good at it. And you got to know which one of your pitches to use and how to put it together, but you have to have that down pat. So today's exercise, what we're going to do together today, you guys, is I know this is going to be really hard for some of you, but I promise you it's going to be totes worth it. We are going to do a little pitch exercise together using a standard kind of rubric for a basic form of a pitch that Adeo has used, that we use all the time. Okay? While Justin passes those out, I want to address your question from before and the conversation that you and I had at the beginning. Yeah, just hand them out. You'll pass them out.
By the way,
All right.
I can tell you my idea tomorrow.
Don't tell me yet, because I want to hear it later. So earlier, David and I were having a conversation in which he said to me, he said, I don't want to tell you my idea because then you will steal it. Okay? Now, yeah, in 2 weeks I'll tell you when my product is launched. But now I don't want to tell you because you're going to steal my idea. So let me also disabuse you of something. All you beautiful, beautiful snowflakes. Your idea isn't worth shit. I don't give a fuck what your idea is. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not worth anything. It isn't worth the time and oxygen that it requires you to express it to me. Because everyone has an idea. If you don't believe me, when you jump on the train tonight, ask the other people in the car, do you have a startup idea? Do you have a business idea? Do you have something knocking around in your head? Who cares? Nobody cares about your idea. I don't care. You're not going to tell me anything that I'm not going to say, like, that's not going to make me go, oh my God, I have to drop everything I'm doing with gamification and do your idea. No. No. And there isn't an idea in this room, you guys, that any one of you, that will persuade any one of you to drop everything it is that you're doing, to change your life, to mortgage your house, to do whatever it is, to pursue that idea if you're not genuinely invested in that concept. Ideas are not really valuable. Ideas are not valuable. The execution of those ideas is valuable. Everyone has ideas. Not everyone can bring them to reality. Okay? So, I fully respect your insane desire to protect your incredibly valuable and yet completely worthless idea. Okay? However, I also will assure you that you will not be able to advance in your dream of being a startup founder if that's your orientation. How are you going to raise money? Not tell people your idea? You're going to ask for NDAs from venture capitalists? How are you going to recruit partners to your business? How are you going to get people to support you? How are you going to find out the things that you don't know but you need to know, like the other competitors that are probably starting in your space? You know how you find that out? By telling people your idea, by sharing your concept. And people say, oh, you know what? I met someone who might be able to help you. Oh, you know what? I heard about that before. Right? That sounds really cool. I'd love to help you with that. Have you thought about this? Okay, if you don't socialize it, if it doesn't see the sunshine, nobody can help you. Not least of which me. I obviously will not help you. You can tell my opinion on the subject. But everyone else can't help you. Okay, so in front of you have a, and so that's how we deal with people with the same idea in the thing, in the session. We'll help you out if you're really in the same space. We'll help you differentiate or merge or do something like that, but it's pretty rare. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, you guys. I want you to fill this in. Do the best you can with the idea that you already have, okay? And then afterwards, some of you, and then we're gonna do some stuff together, okay, to try to work on it a little bit. Now, can I just talk you through a couple things? First things first. No goddamn jargon. Okay? I don't want you to use the word platform. Do not use the word platform unless you literally are describing a platform that I could stand on. Don't use the word platform. Say mobile application, website. Okay? Describe it. Number one. Do not use words like transmedia. Okay? And I actually like speak at transmedia conferences and stuff, so they're like, they hate when I say this, but don't use that word. Okay? Paradigm shift, also not okay. You know the words, don't use them. Those words are off limits. I want this to be very clear. I want this to be so clear, you guys, that my mom would understand. And she's a smart lady, so you don't need to dumb it down for her, but don't use words that she just doesn't understand. Clear, obvious statements. The clearer, the better. Last thing, secret sauce, which is maybe a term that some of you don't recognize or don't know exactly what we mean. Your secret sauce is your strategic competitive advantage. What makes you different? Why would people use your thing? What's differentiated about the thing that you're going to make? Okay? So those things can be very, very wide. They can be very small. They can be very big. But what makes you different and unique? That's the secret sauce. Any questions about this? No? Okay. Do your best. Let's say you've got like 4 minutes, okay, to do this. So 4 minutes, maybe 5 if you're lucky. Do your best. There's some pens floating around, Rafa. There's like some pens back there. Do your best on this, and then we're going to reconvene and talk about it.